Hi, it's Amanda here from the Nana Haggerty Center with this week's Art Challenge. I have a really fun activity planned for us, and I hope it will help you start to learn how to look at things around you in a new way. We're going to need some equipment that's pretty simple. We're going to need a nice fat marker. This is what's called a fine point Sharpie. This one will work. If you have one that's fatter than this, that's okay too. We're going to need an X-Acto knife or a box cutter such as this. If you have one of the ones where the blade is about an inch thick, that's probably too big. So either a fine knife, or you can also use scissors for this project, but you may not be able to cut out things quite that are, not quite as fine. And obviously a pencil. We're going to need a nice thick paper. And the last thing that's really important is something to put underneath our paper while we cut. I don't want to damage my nice kitchen table, and what I'm going to use is a cutting board like I would use in my kitchen when I'm chopping vegetables. You could use something like this. You could also use a big stack of newspaper piled up underneath, or you could use a couple of nice thick pieces of cardboard. So you would put that underneath when we're going to cut. So you'll need a few of those items. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a fairly simple design. So it could be something like, well, something fairly simple. It could be something like a heart, okay? So note that my heart takes up most of the page, but it doesn't get too close to the edges. Another thing that I could draw, maybe it could be a little self-portrait. So give myself a nice, cute little t-shirt. So you see, I have a very simple pencil drawing. Kind of looks like me. Maybe not perfect, but that's okay. So these drawings, we are going to go over them with our marker so that you have a really nice, bold black line, like so. So I would do the same for this drawing that I've done. And I'm going to show you some other ones that I've done so far. So I have a Canada maple leaf. Now this one has a little problem with it. See here and on the top, it got really close to the edge. So this will work okay, but we want to leave more space around our shape, like so. This is another really cool one that I'm pretty excited to show you what we're gonna do with. It's like a fashion illustration. So some really simple shapes for a dress. No real expression on her face, just like kind of a basic hair, okay? And this one's quite complicated. So it's some mountains, and then there's trees and the hill. And then this bottom part is like maybe the reflection in some water, okay? So this would be advanced level. This would be, I would say, medium level difficulty. And something like this is gonna be, I would say, easy level difficulty. So for something to cut like this, we can take our scissors. Got one finger on the back where my pokies are, and I'm just gonna gently twist those scissors until I get a hole cut in there. And then you're gonna put your scissors in that hole and you're gonna cut up. And then we will follow the black line that we made. And it's okay if we cut a little bit of it off. All right. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about knife safety before we move on, okay? So with knife safety, it's really important that we don't cut ourselves so that we don't get hurt, get injured, okay? So if you're at all uncomfortable using a knife, just use scissors, right? Just use scissors. Remember, you can turn your paper, you can take your scissors out and angle them in a different way, okay? But if you have a knife and you want to try using the knife, okay? With this, I want you to notice this blade, it slides all the way out. You never want to use it with the blade like that. That's really dangerous because this type of blade is made to break. And when you break it, it gives you a sharper tip. So with this type of knife, you only ever want about this much of it exposed, okay? But notice when I push on this little button, it comes back and down. So always be careful with that, okay? Now, we can hold these knives like we would hold a pencil or a pen. And we have a fair amount of control over it, just like we would when we're drawing. Always keep this hand out of the way. If I put it here to hold my paper down, and then I go and cut here, and it slips, I'm gonna end up cutting my hand, okay? We don't want that. So, something like this, notice my cutting board is on the table, and I have my paper on top. I'm gonna hold my paper down away from the direction that I'm cutting. And just like if I was going over that line with a pencil, I'm basically gonna draw that line with the tip of my knife. So I'm just pulling it back towards me. And notice my hand not in the way. So same thing with this line. Now to make it easy on myself, I can turn my paper. Okay? So that's basic knife safety. And eventually you go all the way around and make sure you get all the corners, and that will come out as well. Okay? So this is basically part one. Once you get them all cut out, will be complete, and I'll show you what we're going to do with part two right away. All right, safety first. I'm back after finishing cutting out my t-shirt and adding some drawing details, texture in my hair, and outlining the whole thing. So now I have this collection of all of these little cutouts that we can use basically as viewfinders. And we can look at different patterns and textures around us and just sort of have fun experimenting with what we see. Sometimes the finished product of our art projects isn't necessarily like a finished beautiful painting to hang on the wall or a finished piece of ceramic. Sometimes it's little studies and exercises like this that just train us how to look at things differently. So, for example, she looks quite different now, doesn't she? Or, how about now? Right? So you can search around and find some different really cool things, right? different ways of making images. And even depending on like where you hold it, it changes the pattern, right? Basically, what you're gonna do for this project is once you have these little view cards or viewfinders all cut out, what you're basically gonna do is you're gonna walk around the house and hold it up to things with one hand, and with your other hand, or maybe you have a friend to help you, they're gonna use their device to go and take photos of things. And maybe you will find some really cool things. So see here, I've got this laid out like this. Now I'm gonna stand up and gonna line it up so that I think it looks good. And I'll show you the photo. All right. So, I hope you enjoy yourself. Remember, you can do fashionable ladies in beautiful dresses. You could do hearts, or you could do leaves. You could do a picture of yourself in a t-shirt. Or you could really challenge yourself and see where it takes you. So, enjoy!